Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to Hands On. This session is going to go through business continuity. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Alana. I work at the Innovation Cluster as the Operations and Events Manager. We are a not-for-profit organization that works with startups, specifically working in technology. But with that being said, all of our workshops are open to the public. But on your screen, you're going to see a number of organizations that we work very closely with. We're kind of recognized as the TeamPTBO group, and some of them are also our partners. So we've been working collaboratively with them throughout this time to bring you guys workshops. So again, today you're going to go through business continuity with Charlina Westbye. So some of the learning objectives are, what is business interruption insurance? And business interruption insurance specifically with COVID-19, how and where it's obtained, if you need it, and alternative options, as well as business overhead expense insurance. I'm sure a lot of you will have questions at the end of this session, so save them. I'm going to enable the chat feature after the presentation so that you can put them in, and I will read them to Charlina, and she will answer you to the best of her ability. There's also going to be a survey sent out to you after this session, so you can let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, any topics you would like to see us deliver. So I'm just going to pass it over to Charlina now.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's so nice to see some familiar faces and names popping up. Like Alana said, I'm Charlina Westbye, and I'm here today. I'm on the board of directors with Community Futures, and specifically also on the loans committee. So I'm here representing Community Futures, and I have a presentation for you today because a lot of people are asking about the business interruption, or business also known as business continuity insurance. And so, well, there's a lot of businesses who are closed down, and as many of you know, the question becomes, what is available to me? What could I have done? What can I do to prepare for the future? So this is a good topic to talk about as you prepare going forward. Hindsight's 2020, but we can all learn from this, and I'm looking at it positively. What can we do to set ourselves up for success in the future? So I'm going to start by just sharing my screen with you. So give me a sec. I'm going to try doing that. There, can I get a thumbs up if everybody can see my screen? Yay, all right. So I wanted to entitle this one, Business Interruption Insurance and More, because by itself, it's a very boring and topic, but we want to be able to talk about all the scenarios around it, what your other options are too. Okay, so a little bit of background to give a little bit of cred here to myself. I'm a licensed financial consultant, okay, but what's important and I want to disclose is that I am not a specialist or an expert specifically in business continuity or interruption or business overhead insurance, okay? My specialty is in living benefits, such as life, disability, critical illness for individuals, groups, and businesses. However, my experience and the reason I've been asked to speak about this topic is because I have over 15 years, almost 20 years of commercial lending and advising experience. So having personally worked with Business Development Bank of Canada for over 9 years, and locally in Peterborough at the Court, the credit union, as a commercial account manager, that has given me much experience in terms of dealing with the risks of encountered by business owners and how to mitigate those risks. I spent a lot of time putting fires out with businesses, and then I have developed a big network of associates in the insurance and lending and advisory ecosystem, which here in Peterborough and County and area. I also have a business letter accreditation from Dalhousie University, and like I said, P&C, that's personal and property and casualty insurance. I have a lot of resources with them, and we share information back and forth. So with that said, what is business interruption or continuity insurance? So first and foremost, it's important to understand that it is a rider, okay? So you have your business insurance policy, but you attach a rider to it, okay? Which then gives you that additional insurance. So it's not a standalone policy, okay? It's not a policy in and of itself. So you have to speak with your insurance provider in order to add that onto your policy. That rider, the business interruption, or I'll call it BI because that's a big long word to keep saying and this will go on forever, is typically, it's triggered only when a business experiences a loss of revenue resulting from a physical damage to the business insured property. Okay, so for example, a business whose factory is burned down will have more straightforward claim for a business interruption coverage than a business which cannot operate its factory due to like a pandemic like the COVID-19. It's just important, just a quick side note here to let you know there's 3 different types of business interruption policies that can be attached there, and they're specific to your business. You don't just add them on, you need to know what your business needs are. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit further on. Okay, so you've got your gross earnings, typically it pays out until your property or your damage is replaced or repaired, or your inventory and your stock is replaced, at which time that interruption insurance will stop. There's a profits policy, which will continue to pay until your normal pre-interruption level has been recovered. And it's important to know with that as well, that there's limits. So there may be, we'll only cover you for 30 days or 60 or 90 or 6 months, okay? So again, that adds to it has to be specific to your business. Extra expense policy, another type of rider, which is designed for businesses so that they can remain operational during while their business is affected or loss. Okay, so if there's any questions there, write them down and we'll come back to this. So COVID-19, which is all on your minds, and business interruption, is there coverage? The short answer, folks, is no. Okay, so traditionally these BI policies do not cover pandemics. Okay, typically a business interruption policy is only triggered when a client is hit with what's called the peril covered under the policy. So when their actual physical, tangible, you can touch it, building equipment inventory is damaged. Okay, so for many business and BI policies, income loss arising from COVID-19 precautions will not be covered. Because unlike a flood or a fire, there's no damage to the property itself. I think that's kind of going to really hit home with a lot of people because they're thinking, how can I protect myself? I too am going to cover that here shortly. Something I saw, and you'll see at the bottom of your screen, business interruption insurance was never designed to respond to pandemics. That I pulled off of the Insurance Brokers Association of Ontario website. Their president and CEO specifically had said that. But I want to note to some businesses out there who have, for example, in manufacturing, that you may purchase some specialized contingent business interruption coverage, such as supply chain disruption coverage, which potentially may have been triggered. They may be able to make a claim on this as a result of the World Health Organization declaring a pandemic. I want to make it important to understand here that if you didn't already have this coverage, you can't put it in place and then make a claim. So people are asking, will COVID-19 cause Canada's property and casualty insurance industry to start reducing pandemic business or start introducing this type of coverage for pandemics? Much in the way that Calgary's 2013, I think it was, floods prompted the industry to introduce overland flood coverage. I wouldn't count on it, folks. The question for insurers, the reason it's it would be very hard to put something like that in place. Pandemic coverage in business interruption or continuity insurance is because insurance underwriters, who are those that are underwriting and putting the policy in place, they have to ask themselves certain questions. So they need to ask what kind of information is available to them that would allow an insurance carrier to define the pandemic risk. So, when you're doing, for example, life insurance policies, there are stats and significant stats about comorbidity and how, what's the average age of a male? What's the average age of a male smoker? Same with females. In a pandemic, each pandemic is different and has unique characteristics. So it would make it virtually impossible for the insurance industry to cover a blanket pandemic coverage for businesses at affordable rates. Moving on, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about with business interruption insurance is the marketing. So if you Googled business continuity or business interruption insurance right now, you're going to see a lot of advertisements like what you're seeing here. I found this one online, and it's similar to many of what other insurance companies are putting on their sites, saying that prepare for the unexpected, prevent loss of income if your business cannot operate. They're not specifying why you can't operate, okay? They're saying protect yourself from financial obligations even though your business is closed. Again, they're specific, it's very specific. And those of you who have insurance, you know that the paperwork with just the conditions are this thick, right? So it also says extra expenses are covered to pay for additional costs. This all sounds great and good. I need this until you give them a call, and then that's when you find out the more particulars about it. Now, don't get me wrong. There is definitely a place for business continuity and interruption insurance. So if you have buildings or you have inventory, equipment, you want to make sure you have that insurance in place. But for this current situation we're in with this COVID-19, this pandemic, businesses are closed down, your supply chain's interrupted. Business continuity and interruption insurance is not going to help you in that case, which is why the government has been trying to come up with these programs to help us out. Okay. So, but there's other options for you out there. Okay. So as we move forward, hindsight's 2020. We can't fix we don't have. We can't put in place what we didn't have in place in the first place. But there's other options that I want individuals and business owners to know and be aware of. As you're moving forward, when things get back into place and our doors are opening and we're conducting business, whether it be as per the norm or we've changed how we're doing things more online, it's important, just as you would have with your family, you'd have an emergency fund, which I think a lot of people right now, a lot of families are realizing that they should have listened to me and their other advisors and put something in place. Typically, it's 3 to 6 months of expenses. Same with your business. That's a lot of money. So you need to be putting that money someplace so that you can cover things such as, in your wages for your employees, overhead, inventory, marketing, because if your doors are closed, where are you going? Social media. That's why we're all here right now, right? So there's options to businesses too. Businesses can hold a tax-free savings account. I don't know if many of you knew that, but you can. It keeps it liquid. It's tax-free. Okay, and you put your money in there, and depending on how many businesses you have, there's a limit. But you want to use different options to save money so you have cash available. Cash is king. Credit's another option to you. Okay, so some business owners get what's called a readvanceable loan. So that means that they have something that's secured, and as the money gets drawn down on it, if you need more money, you can readvance up to that max limit. Something to speak with your banker about. I want to touch base here about lines of credit, folks. So be careful with your business line of credit, okay? When your business, if you have a line of credit and you're using it to help support and pay that rent, sometimes we just don't have any other options. We have to do what we have to do. What I'm sharing these options with you means going forward. So get back to work, pay down the line of credit. But you got to be careful, because if you're using your lines of credit, when the business gets up and running again, how are you going to pay your suppliers? How are you going to pay for your other overhead? Okay, so you want to have that cash available to you. This is one of my favorite ones. The next point is Community Futures Peterborough. And I can see you all on there now. Hi, everybody. Good. Look at you guys keeping your distance. Good for you. So Community Futures, they've put in place, they have special funding available. If you're applying for anything less than 20,000, it can be reviewed and, if eligible, approved right in the office within days. And that has been life-saving for many businesses. And the point being here is that you have options available to you, so you don't necessarily have to rely on your credit, your lines of credit and your savings. You can speak with them, and there's repayment terms. Also partnered that we're very close with is BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada. They are Canada's only bank dedicated to small businesses, which is, I think, is part of their tagline. They offer online applications. They've got current, I think they got about 20 billion, correct me if I'm wrong, or not 20 billion, but a lot of money anyways, that they can use to help during this time. So get in contact with them at BDC. Another thing that I want to talk about is if you're business owner, I mean, as a business owner, if you get sick, so let's look at from the COVID-19. If you're a business owner and you're unable to work and you had a disability insurance policy in place, which means that you cannot work at all during this time because you are sick, then that disability insurance placed on the owner or the key person operating the business can come into play to help you manage your own personal expenses. And then I also wanted to talk about business overhead expenses, so business overhead insurance. So with this one here, the difference is that the business overhead expense is to pay ongoing operating business expenses while the owner is disabled and unable to generate revenue for the business. Okay, so this is specifically designed to meet operating expenses and to keep business and business assets viable, so that when the disabled owner comes back to work, that they have a business to return to. This is typically available to small businesses. So many of you that I'm speaking to have less than 5 employees. And it's important to note that the definition here of disability is business owners are unable to perform their regular duties within the existing business. Qualified expenses for business overhead is rent, property taxes, your business taxes, actual income taxes are included, utilities, leases, you can see all the rest there. What I think is important for people to know what's not included, okay? Because often we get caught up in, oh, I get this coverage, I get this coverage, but then we develop in our head saying, oh, I got all this coverage, but we don't, okay? So some of them it's not, for example, loan interest is covered, but the capital portion of your loans are not covered. Capital expenditures, you need to buy equipment or inventory for the business, that's not covered under business overhead expense. And I see I've misspelled business. Lovely. The salary of the disabled owner, that's not covered. And then if you hire someone to replace the business owner while that business owner is off, that's not covered either. So it's very important that you have the proper advice and insurance in place. So I guess the question is for you, and I know I've asked myself, I've had a lot of my clients and people I've been speaking to, is what now? What do I do now? What can I do going forward? I mean, we're in a place now where we know that business continuity and interruption insurance is not an option, unfortunately, right now. But what can I do? And like I've been saying, hindsight is 20/20. So we need to plan going forward. These extraordinary events, guys, they really open your eyes to what's important. And protecting your business and your employees is very important. So I can't stress this enough. You need to speak to your accountant and your other professionals about interruptions in your business. the financial impact that it'll have on your business, what expenses would need to be covered if you had to close your doors again in the future. Discuss that specific coverage, because coverage is very specific to you and your business and your goals. Make sure you understand any coverage. Don't sign anything too quickly, and ask questions. One of the important things is ask around. We have a very vast system and with a lot of connections and a big network, and everybody knows someone else in your industry, in the same industry. Ask them what they're doing. Ask them, what do you have in place? What are you doing to protect your risk, your employees, yourself, your business? Make sure to ask and get those opinions. Only now are business owners justifying these costs of insurance. Whether it be business overhead, business continuity, life insurance, disability, critical illness, group insurance, everybody complains about it until they need it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm just going to ask Alana or Rose to open it up if there's any questions. I'm a fast talker, so I get caught up and I get very passionate about what I'm talking about. But I have this presentation. I'm happy to share it. So I hand it back to you, Alana.
Thanks. Okay, so I did enable the chat feature. If anybody does have any questions, you can put them in there, and I will read them out loud. This is recorded, so I will be sending a copy to those of you who registered probably tomorrow or next week, early next week. But in the meantime, while people are putting their questions in, I did want to let you all know that next Wednesday, April 22nd at 12 p.m., we are having a hands-on specifically on stress and coping during the pandemic with Dr. Lee Smith. He's a registered psychologist. And then on the following Friday at 8 a.m., we're doing our first virtual power breakfast. That one will specifically be on economic impacts and shifts from COVID-19, and that's with Andrew Pyle. For those of you who don't know who Andrew is, he has experience as a senior market analyst in Canada's financial industry. So he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the economy. So that will be a really great session. All of them are on our social media, so you can access the registration there. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay. Connie is saying, what do you know about repeat claims? Is it like car insurance where premiums go up?
Connie, I'm not sure about that one, but I will get back to you about that. Like I said, so I'm familiar with what it covers in terms of like those specifics about repeats. I'm not familiar. I'm not going to pretend I know something that I don't at this point in time. I will get back to you about that information. I would assume that because it's part of a rider that you would be entitled to have a repeat because interruption is constantly happening in business. It's just a matter, I am going to assume, but I'm going to clarify, is that there may be terms of those within the policy itself. So I'm going to write that down and get back to you.
Okay.
Good question, by the way.
Does anybody else have any questions so far? Oh, from Diane. Would you be better off applying for the government programs rather than lenders?
That's a very common question, and it all depends on your situation. Okay, so those that I've spoken with business owners who don't necessarily need the cash infusion and the cash, but it's available to them, so they want to have it just in case. So for example, if you're talking about the $40,000 Canadian business emergency loan for small businesses, that's given in a lump sum, for example, and you draw on it as you need it. And if you repay it up to 75% of it, so 30 grand of it, then you get to write off, or you don't have to repay $10,000 of it, which is 25%. So to apply for it, if you are eligible, keeping in mind you're only eligible if your payroll, wages, and expenses over in 2019 were over 50 grand and under $1 million. If you're eligible, great, you get the money. If you don't need it, you pay it back. But if you do need it, then it's there, it's available to you, and it's 0% interest until December 31st, 2022. So you have a year and a half to pay that back. So I digress. Are we better off applying for the government programs rather than the lenders? So the lenders have different options to you too. If you need more than 40 grand, then that's where you go. Alternatively, you go to the bank and you could potentially apply or potentially be eligible for the 40,000, but maybe you need a top up of another 10 or another 20. Bring in community futures, for example, and there's potentially 60 grand that you have to repay. But you know, that's a question to have with your accountant. I hope that answers your question, Diane.
Okay. In regards to Connie's question, Rose is saying that her partner Jeff, he actually is in insurance. So he said it depends if you're at fault for the claim, then generally your premium will be affected depending on the frequency of your claims. Okay.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Even in life benefits too, if there's been some sort of claim, that's taken into consideration.
Okay, from Peter, can the interruption insurance policies be purchased from typical liability insurance companies, or are they specialized carriers?
They are typically specialized carriers. And if you want more information on who, if you're looking to speak with someone, you can reach out to me individually. And Alana, if people have more questions for me, perhaps you could give them my email address, my personal email address. You know, we can talk about that, or I can refer them. Like I said, I have a number of people, and it all depends on who, the type of insurance or type of business. So typically, like for example, I called my insurance provider for property and casualty, and they would have to refer me to a partner which specializes.
Okay. The next one is, can a Chamber of Commerce apply for the emergency bank account?
Can the Chamber of Commerce apply? Can a Chamber of Commerce apply for the emergency bank account?
I think they're referring to the 40,000.
Yeah. So I believe it's available. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. There's so much information that not-for-profits can apply if they've had the salary. They have those wage eligibilities. I have to look into that one.
Okay. From Colin, how much can you save in a business tax-free savings account before it is taxed?
Good question. So the tax-free savings account right now in 2020, the maximum limit is $69,500. Each year, the government then either adds on an amount or they don't add on an amount. And since 2009, they've always added on anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 each year. If you over contribute, you will be penalized. But here's the thing, governments can actually be a little nice sometimes. So they'll actually notify you and say you've over contributed and pull that money out to keep it under the cap. So right now, the short answer is in 2020, the amount is $69,500, whether you're an individual or a business.
Okay. That's currently the last one. Does anybody else have any? Oh, okay. From Jennifer. Are insurance companies making any concession due to this shutdown? I've canceled mine and they are debating returning any balance for my policy for the rest of the term.
Jennifer, are you referring to your business insurance? Because I know, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. I've only heard from my personal insurance, and it varies, like Rosalie says here, she wrote it, it varies on the insurance company. It does. I've heard from my insurance, some of my insurance companies, and some others I've not. So it's really their industry is leaving it up to individual carriers, as far as I know. And that's today. That could change tomorrow.
So she is saying it's business liability. She works in the beauty industry.
Okay. So they are debating returning my balances for policy for the rest of the term. Yeah, they're going to take it on a case-by-case basis, much like the banks are when you're looking to defer your mortgages. It will be case-by-case. It would be a liability to them if they made a blanket statement. Stay in touch with them though. Keep following up.
Okay. Is anybody else? Oh, from Patricia, does business interruption insurance cover vandalism while businesses are sitting empty?
Cover business interruption. No, that would be the business interruption insurance would only cover the property damage at the time of the incident. Okay, your regular insurance would property insurance. So the blanket would probably cover the insurance if you cover any damage to your property if the business was empty, so long as your premiums are paid up. So in this case, for example, businesses are sitting empty. If they're maintaining their insurance, then should it be vandalized, any damage done there, if they make a claim, then that would be covered under property insurance.
Okay.
Rosalie says, and they seem to be stopping their rate increases. Rosalie, I'm assuming you're talking in terms of premiums. She writes, considering all things on a case-by-case basis generally, the government has encouraged companies to lower the premiums in Ontario. Yes, they've encouraged them.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions, but again, you guys can feel free to send me your questions and then I can send them off to be answered. We've done that with a bunch of workshops so far, actually.
Mm-hmm. So one more thing I just want to say here, Alana, that this is what I love about our community. We have so many wise, informed people that are actively seeking information and not just waiting for it to come to them. So Connie does say that she was validating what I had said about the Chamber of Commerce being able to apply, and I thought so. So thank you, Connie. I appreciate that. In regards to the claim repeat, Connie, I'm going to look into that because that's a good question and I'll get back to you. Thanks, Lana.
No problem. So if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to insert this little survey at the bottom for people to complete. So that will let us know if you enjoyed the workshop, what we can work on going forward, and what you guys want to see specifically going forward from our organization. So again, we have 2 workshops next week. Wednesday, hands-on stress and coping during the pandemic. Friday, a power breakfast on economic impact and future shifts in the economy. All of it's on our social media, so you'll see all the registration links there. Any last words?
I just want to say you should all be patting yourself on the back. You got up this morning and you tuned in to educate yourself. I would like to see everybody on this list join into the session about stress and maintaining that, because you're already ahead of the game by showing up and signing on and informing yourself. That is how you're actually protecting yourself. You're ensuring that you have, the first thing to do about insurance is educating yourself. So well done. And thank you so much to all of you there at the cluster for bringing this to everybody, and keep doing this because you're being active, and activities creates business. Okay, so keep it up. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for everything. Bye.